Okay. Our clock on the wall is about 2 or 3 minutes behind the phone and the thing. You know, electronics and gadgetry are my not favorite thing. Welcome to our town council meeting for February 14th. I hope that you all have enjoyed a good Valentine's Day to tonight. We will try to be efficient with our time use tonight in case you have dinner plans, but here's hearts and loves to everyone in Fort Mill. If you do have a cell phone device, a computer that would make noise and distract us from giving you our full attention, or you ours, please silence it. With that, we will stand for our Pledge of Allegiance, and Councilman Moody will give us an invocation. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear God, thank you for today and for bringing us all here to do the business of the town. Just lead us and guide us and direct us in this time. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right. Council members, you have been provided the minutes of the January 24th, 2022 Town Council meeting. Are there any changes, addendum, or deletions? Hearing none, can I have...
I'll make a motion that we accept.
Thank you. I have a motion to accept. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you so much. Public comment pursuant to Section 2-46 of the Code of Ordinances for the Town of Fort Mill. Any citizen of the town may appear before council for the purpose of providing public comments on any municipal matter except personnel matters. Those who wish to speak must sign in outside of council chambers prior to the start of the meeting. Citizens will be given 3 minutes each to speak. Davey, do we have anyone signed in today?
Mayor, we do not.
All right, thank you. Then we're going to move straight into presentation number 1, York County Utility Steel Creek Force Main Replacement Plan, Barry McKinnon, P.E., and Matthew Schultz, P.E. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to come. After 21 years in local government, it kind of feels funny coming in and doing it from the other side. So, but we're glad to be here. My name is Barry McKinnon, and I'm the Utility Program Manager for York County. Matt Schultz is with me. He's our project engineer. And the reason I came tonight was to share with you about a new 30-inch sewer force main that's going to be coming from Steel Creek to the Manchester Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant in Rock Hill, which Fort Mill lies right in the middle of. So we have began developing plans. As a matter of fact, one section of this 30-inch force main we started last week just south of the Steel Creek Bridge. Be working off the road on the some new right-of-way over there. Originally we were going to go down the Greenway, and the Springs people just, I don't know, they didn't like that. So they did work with us, and so we changed it. But so right now we've got easements down to Dye Creek. At Dye Creek, our plan is to divert along the creek. That's some I think homeowner association property there, and some of the town property there, and bring that force main down that way. Matt's going to talk to you a little bit more about that. The reason for this is same problem, or it's a problem, but it's also a good thing, is a lot of the growth that's going on in the northeast section of the county. So we have just built a new pump station there that basically tripled the size of the old pump station. So we're currently have a 24-inch force main. We're moving to a 30-inch force main, which will more than double the capacity that we can pump. And that should be good for another 20 to 30 years. This is a design-build project, so instead of bidding that out, we were able to have proposals come in from different engineering firms and construction firms. Our construction firm is State Utility Contractors, which is right across the state line in Monroe. And Matt represents HDR Engineering, and they're doing the design on that. So he's going to come up and tell you a little bit about the route and how we came to that route. The biggest thing we want y'all to know is this is coming. We know people will be asking you questions, so we don't want you to get blindsided by this.
We already have had some questions.
As a matter of
So,
fact, I
sorry,
had-
but that one's a no-go.
Well, we don't want to blindside you anymore. Matter of fact, I had a call from the townhomes this afternoon as I was walking out the door heading this way, so I'll call them back tomorrow. But we do want y'all to be aware of that, and there's some other ideas we've got to go along with that, so I'll let
Before you
Matt-
pass it along, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
I'm Gwen.
Okay.
Are you doing this project by accessing rights to cross properties, or are you condemning properties?
Our preference is always to access rights. We worked with Springs Industries to get the force main down to where it is, down to where phase one's going to end there at Dock Creek. Most of the property that we will be on will either be town property or homeowners association property. Coming down Dock Creek, and then when we come back across, I think we go back on Springs property and some more town property as we go past the wastewater treatment plant.
I guess my question stems from spending 25 years with Duke Power and acquiring right-of-way for transmission lines and distribution lines. And I happen to know that, you know, for electric service to be provided, there were times we had to condemn
There are
properties.
times we have to as well.
So I'm asking, are you condemning properties or are you gaining by right?
Well, first we will go in and try to gain by right. If that fails, then we do condemnation.
I just want that to be clear because these meetings are tape recorded
Mhm.
and played on our government channel.
Right.
So even with you mentioning Dock Creek, I know there are many of our residents that won't have a clue where that is, but I believe you said Matt's going to help us with
Yeah,
direction.
this is gonna go through Walden Park, between Creekside Crossing and Sharon Hills and Old Orchard, and then run between Riverview Elementary and towns at River Crossing.
Okay.
So that's the route we're taking through there.
That's your proposed route.
Right, yes.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Thank you.
okay, I'm gonna let Matt come and talk to you a little bit.
Thank you. Hi, Matt.
Hello, thanks for having us. So yeah, as Barry mentioned, this slide here shows all of the projected growth in the north part of the county, which is that hatched area there, so just north of Fort Mill limits. And we did a pretty extensive study that involved both the force main as well as the pump station project that Barry just mentioned. The pump station finished construction in 2020. It's located kind of in a wooded area by where the old baseball stadium is, so down.
Fort Mill Schools building.
Correct, just down the hill from there. So that has been in operation for a little over a year now. That's a photo of that facility there. And so this overall project is really a two-phase approach. The first phase was the construction of the pump station, and again, it's in operation now. The second phase is to expand the wastewater force main pipe that there's currently a 24-inch pipe that runs from that pump station to Rock Hill already. Most of that alignment is along Highway 21 bypass until you get down to just north of Spratt Street, and then it crosses some private property, runs along the town property by the treatment facility, and then runs along Duke Easement over to Rock Hill. So we are following that to the extent that we can, but we have some challenges with some of that alignment, and so I'll talk a little bit about those briefly. And so we've kind of broken the project up into three sections. There's some urgency to this project, both from a capacity perspective and the growth that's occurring, as well as the condition of that existing pipe. The county's experienced several failures of that existing pipeline. And so, you know, they've had to obviously go out and make some emergency repairs and things like that. And so we're trying to, you know, get this replaced as quickly as possible from a condition aspect, but as well as a growth capacity. So, and by dividing up into three sections, it really helps us from a permitting and construction schedule perspective to try and get things started as soon as possible. So, this slide here is focused on the northern section, so about a third of the project. So it starts again at the wastewater pump station. It's on the top part of the screen. It's a little hard to see, but the red line that runs along Highway 21 is the proposed force main alignment. So section 1 runs along Highway 21 until Dye Branch, the stream called Dye Branch, just south of 160. Where it crosses Highway 21, that's where we propose leaving the Highway 21 corridor and then running along Dye Branch. So if you'd back up, sir, just one. Yeah, thank you. So as Barry mentioned, we've been coordinating for many months now with Clear Springs and their folks on setting an alignment that works best for them and their properties. And they have agreed to that, and we have easements for their property. We also working closely with, Highway 21 bypass is set to be widened, and so we're working with SCDOT in all of the road widening projects that are going on up and down that section of highway. And that really leads into the Section 2 challenge, which is in some of the places the pipe is having to be about 100 feet off the existing roadway, simply because of how much widening and movement of earth and things like that are being proposed as part of the roadway project. And so this pipe needs to be outside of their corridor, so it's not impacted. And so that places the pipe pretty far off of the roadway.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So, for phase 1, it doesn't. Why are you not having to deviate further away from 21 in phase 1 as much? Because isn't that going to be widened all the way to the state line?
I just wrote myself.
Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack that.
No,
but
you're fine.
I wanted
You're
to
fine.
ask that before it leaves my brainwave.
Yeah, with our fats and pennies, there are plans to widen 21 from the Rock Hill Catawba River Bridge all the way up to 51.
Yes.
So I'm assuming when you say you're working with the Department of Transportation, you also mean that you're working with our fats and that you're working with pennies. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
We've set our easement to the west of the proposed right of way.
Yes.
So that's why we'll be working so far off the road in that section, that northern section.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's all coordinated, and our alignment is set based upon coordinating between them and Clear Springs. And then again, that's why we're 100 feet off the road, because of that, how much, that road will impact that area. As Barry mentioned, construction began at the northern end of Section 1 about a week and a half ago. They've started clearing. And pipe will be delivered probably in around April timeframe for them to start installing pipe in that northern section. Okay.
What percentage of your line will be in the town of Fort Mill, and what percentage of your line will be in the county?
I would say more than 50% will be in the county. I don't have a more detailed breakdown than that.
I think your comment earlier was just one that's just very provocative to me, because I deal with it every day. Fort Mill is the pass-through for everything.
It is.
We really are. We're in the middle of a tremendous amount of growth that oftentimes we get blamed for. We are the ones that are taking the hits from our community on traffic issues, congestion, rising costs for infrastructure, and utilities. We take the heat for that. But when you look at the growth, it is certainly not centralized in just the town of Fort Mill. There is plenty of growth just outside the town boundaries. So I need to understand, as does my council and my staff, as much as possible about what impacts are coming to our town.
Well, that's why we're here.
Okay.
'Cause we want you to know.
And you started this project when?
Originally, it probably started, 6 years ago?
Phase 1, the pump station up on Steel Creek.
Okay, thank you. Council, do you have questions for these two gentlemen?
Still lots of them. But I'm okay if you want to keep going, or.
You go right ahead.
I think I'm still like Mr. Moody was. Why are we deviating from 21? If the county has already had to acquire additional land off of 21 to expand it, why are they not getting enough to be able to cover this project at the same point so that we're not interrupting more homeowners or property owners away from 21?
So my understanding is DOT has not purchased that road right away, or at least not all of it.
They're in the process. They're in the process, because we're in acquirement phase on that from an RFAT's perspective. We're in the acquirement phase.
And there's probably some areas that they can't get off the road wide enough, especially right there, right around Harris Street.
So when you hit phase 2, I'm not, as you can tell, a road person here, water sewer, but I work in telecom. But at the same time, why the deviation so far off of 21 after phase 1? Can you just run that?
Let me
more time?
rephrase his question, so hopefully it'll help. They're interested in why it can come so close in certain areas and have to be 100 feet
Yeah,
off in
yeah.
others.
Specific to the Highway 21 roadway.
Well, when you're looking here at phase 1, it's all hugging the roadway, and then it's doglegging to the right.
Well, we get to the hospital, and for some reason, they won't let us run through the hospital parking lot. So, but anyway, at the hospital, we have to cross over. So then we
Okay.
come across 160 and we stay in the road. And that was our thinking when we wanted to go to Clear Springs and talk to them about being in the Greenway,
Right.
because we knew there would be no road widening over there. But they weren't open to that, and we suspected that might happen. So where we swap sides over there and go down the roadway, we looked at staying on that same side, on the west side.
Right.
But once again, you start running out of right of way, because whereas the Clear Springs side up above the hospital, the new
They owned it
hospital,
all. Right.
Yeah, and it's not developed at this point.
Right.
When you get past there, you start getting into developed property around Hare Street and all that through there. So we did look at that and did analyze that and try to see if that would work.
I
So
figured around Harris
look at
Street
it.
it would be too narrow, especially
Yes.
with those hills.
Yeah.
Why couldn't it be in the same place the 24-inch line currently is? Or were you going to have to move that anyway because of all this road construction?
So is this in regards to section 2, what's on the map now?
Yeah.
The whole thing. I
Well,
mean, why can't you go from 24 inches to 30 inches in the same ditch?
Well, you can't disturb that existing, I mean, the wastewater service needs to be maintained.
I understand, but right next to it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we looked at that, and that's, as Barry mentioned, the 24-inch runs along the east side of Highway 21. And so we wanted to put it pretty close, I mean, not right next to it, but
Right.
maybe 10, 15 feet away. And that's when Clear Springs said that they'd prefer it to be on the other side of the road because they did not want any disturbance to anything along the east side. And so from our perspective, whether it was on the east side or west side, there was no significant difference from a design or construction perspective. And so by the property owner preferring it to be on the west side, we were fine with that.
Okay, I just,
And you have to be real careful disturbing that 24-inch. You have to keep a certain distance off of that.
Okay.
It's
So
already
it just
fragile, so
pushes
we
you
need
out
to-
that much farther when you try to go that same way.
Well, I guess the rub's gonna be is, and I understand that, dealing with a 30-year-old pipe or whatever, it doesn't take much for it to probably cast iron pipe anyway or something. But when you're getting down into Fort Mill, getting around residential, when you talk about running it up through a couple of neighborhoods along that creek, I think would be the more concern I would have, because now you're running a sewer line through neighborhood, and you're gonna have to have an easement to get in there, you're gonna have to get in there and maintain that, there's gonna be future construction, something breaks or all that, so I think so I'd like us, we're at the top of the funnel. I don't know if you want to follow that into the rest of your presentation, but I think our concerns are, we're representing our constituents, and when you start doing construction work along that creek through the back of a neighborhood or whatever, there's going to be a lot more concern, a lot more calls, a lot more questions. Is this the best route? Is there other options? So I think that's kind of where some of the
I mean, it's DHEC or Army Corps Engineers. Y'all having to go, I'm sure, work with one or two or both of those groups, I imagine, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And on top of Mr. Wolf's, when you get in the neighborhoods and the Walden Park and everything, what kind of time frame of construction will be actually in the neighborhoods, and how much disturbance will be in those areas?
Yeah, so let me walk through section 2. A lot of these questions are section 2. So let me give a little bit of a background to that and then try to hit on some of the questions. So once we get down to Die Branch, ideally we would continue along Highway 21. The existing force main is along Highway 21, but when we trying to work with DOT and looking at the property owner impacts with staying along Highway 21, they became very, very significant. Someone mentioned some of the steep hillsides and stuff that are along that highway. We looked at where that pipe would be, and I mentioned, you know, on the northern section, in some places we were going to have to be 100 feet off the roadway to accommodate SCDOT's widening and get out of their way. If you went and looked at what does 100 feet look like off that road, you're literally on the back decks of a lot of those homes along Highway 21. So that would require all trees to be cleared from the road all the way to, you know, their back deck. And it got so significant, you know, and again, that was our preferred option. We had surveyed it, we did everything, assuming that was the preferred corridor. But then when we looked at the individual property impacts, it was so significant that we, you know, looked again at a broader options for alternatives. We looked at going to the other side of the high school and trying to find some, you know, streets to follow further west. There was no good options along there. And then that's when we looked at Die Branch. Die Branch is currently, there's a cleared corridor through the northern half of Die Branch down to Highway 160, where the town has an existing sewer easement and Duke has an overhead power distribution line. And so there was already a cleared corridor. And so our current alignment shows it going through that cleared corridor that's already disturbed and already has utilities in it to try and maintain a utility corridor that's already disturbed. Certainly there are impacts, you know, there's no doubt that there's impacts, but when we looked at those impacts compared to what the Highway 21 option was, it was, in our opinion, those impacts are significantly less than the Highway 21 option, which was our initially preferred option.
So when you're cutting through Walden Park right there, I mean, I know this is a line, I mean, when you zoom in, it looks like that line is like going almost, I don't know if it's a house. I mean, there's already an existing right-of-way or structure through there, or, I mean, how's that going to disturb that neighborhood, I guess, is what I'm wondering.
So it is, as Barry mentioned, almost exclusively in HOA property.
Okay.
There are a couple of residents, maybe north of Somerton. There are maybe 2 private, you know, lots where we have to get, you know, kind of on their back 10 feet or so piece of their property down on the hill where they don't maintain that area of their lot, but we're on their lot.
Right.
Simply because there's 2 other utilities there and we have to kind of wiggle through there, if you will. And then once we cross, so it's mostly HOA property that has existing utilities in it. Once we cross that and we head towards Somerton, I think we're, again, almost all on HOA. There's an existing, like a 3-foot wide concrete pathway, again, in a cleared right-of-way where there's sewer already and utilities. We're in that cleared area as well. And then once we cross Harris, there is one property there at Harris that we would be on their side property, and then it begins town of Fort Mill property in that wooded area just south of 160. And then we're kind of in and out town property and HOA property for the most part until we get down to our toughest pinch point is down at the townhomes. Down towards the bottom of the screen there, you can see the townhomes.
What can you tell us about traffic disruptions? I mean, you're crossing some main arteries here that are going to be quite impactful on traffic. You know, how long do you anticipate crossing 160, 21, Harris Street, and Spratt Street?
Yeah, so we're proposing to bore under all of them. So no lane, no traffic, no street closures,
No direct impact at all.
yeah. Certainly when you have materials coming in and stuff, so there'll be construction materials and deliveries and things like
No
that. So
road
there will be
closures and things.
some impacts to that, or maybe a temporary, lane closure, to offload a piece of equipment or something like that. But all of the road crossings will be bored so that there won't be any road
Yeah.
cuts.
I think more to the point, timing will be interesting because of the upgrade to the intersection at 77 and 160. They're certainly moving along very rapidly, getting close to beginning, and I think we're going to be in a mess for a period of time, so it's not going to be easy for you either. So I think that's a point to be considered as you're looking.
Because they've done so fast, they've been so quick on the Goat Hill Road.
Oh, tell me. I read a bunch today of complaints.
Yeah.
So just because I've been asked, there's no, and I'm sure I understand the answer, but there's no path that runs your line through York County and not through Fort Mill.
Correct.
That is a good question from
Yeah.
the public. So your answer is
There's no good
not.
way. There's not.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And just kind of expanding on that, this project is servicing all of that whole corridor area that was in that first slide, right? So,
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
all flow from that part of the county comes through this pipeline.
okay.
And we do service
It comes
Kingsley
here.
area, so it goes through there.
Service what?
Kingsley.
Oh, okay.
Any further questions for the gentleman?
So I guess, I'll go ahead, Lisa. Ladies
Yeah, you
first.
go ahead, you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I'm getting dizzy. One of you go
Yeah,
ahead.
exactly. So it looks like it does cut through by our Harris Street Park area. Is it going to be going through that creek area? Is that what we
Yeah,
can
we would be
assume?
on the west side of the creek, the park is on the east side.
That is
Okay.
correct.
It's in the woods over
Any-
there.
Yeah,
Yes.
any concern, that park has been known to flood? Any concerns of, while you're doing the work, it disrupting the water flow through that area? Any updates for our Parks and Rec team? They'll be having events going on?
As far as flooding, I mean, this pipe will be 100% buried, and so, flooding, following construction is, no concern at all. It'll all be sealed and, it's a pressurized pipe. Certainly during construction, wet weather and things have an impact on construction all the time. So that's, fairly normal for what
Yeah, I
we
meant,
do.
yeah, more about construction. I understand it's a sealed pipe, I get that.
We
Just understanding.
will have to work with their.
You're gonna have to
with
disrupt the
stormwater
land.
people
You're not
and-
boring
and-
everything.
Yeah, so we will be working with Fort Mill Stormwater.
You've met Greg.
We've already, I think, worked with Phase. As a matter of fact, all of this is in Fort Mill area. My contractor told me the other day what he had to pay for his building permit, so up in Fort Mill. So there's an impact on the whole thing. But
And
yeah.
has there been communication already, I'm assuming after 6 years, with these landowners that you're touching on here? All of them are aware this is coming and you're already in negotiations with them?
They're going to be soon.
Well, and
They are
so,
not.
Yeah.
so,
Interesting.
yes.
I can tell you from the calls I've gotten, they don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, there were some letters that went out, and this has been, as a matter of fact, like I said, I got a call from the townhomes. I was walking out the door, and I was telling Davey that I got a call right as I was walking out that I'll have to call back tomorrow.
Have you had meetings with their HOA?
We have not yet. We wanted to meet with you first.
So we have, the 6 years, most of that was focused on phase one, which was only a single property. As far as the phase two, which is the force main pipe that we've been working on for, it's been about a year. We sent out letters to all property owners that would be impacted, and with information in that letter, with Barry's contact information, and told them, what we were doing. And if you had questions, you can contact Barry, and gave his phone number and his email address. So yes, all property owners along the corridor were notified back then. It's now time to reach
That was
back
what,
out to them.
A year ago.
Yeah. about
Was
Was
a
that
year
this
ago.
letter in the bottom of the packet, January
Yes.
29th,
Yes.
2021?
Yes. So that's before. So we sent that letter out before we did anything, before we started. And so But as you mentioned, it's time to touch base with them again, and I think that's, when the decision was made to
A lot
come
of
here.
turnover, property values in Fort Mill are at all-time highs, so there's a lot of folks taking advantage and a lot of turnover in those areas that have resulted in questions that you're answering.
Sure.
Yeah, we do appreciate y'all letting us know first, because we will be getting calls. I will say, I use the term plumbing useless, just a utility, it needs to be done. And there will be some disruption, obviously, to some people and to the town. And I think we ought to try to, it should be made to try to turn this to be a positive, to fix maybe that creek down at Harris Street Park. Maybe y'all could throw in some improvements down in there.
One of the things
Or as you go through these neighborhoods, there's some areas, maybe some trails could be put in there. You're gonna have a very nice,
Yeah,
you're gonna have that permanent
the town manager and I
easement.
discussed that on a phone call the other day, and,
So that's, I just say, let's put a positive spin on it. What's the benefit to these people living in this town? There's none. But, right now, but you're trying to be a good steward, but you say, I'll tell you what, you got an easement in there, let's make something decent out of it. So I think some trails, this might be something we can turn around and do that,
and if
to the
there's
beneficial.
flooding issues at Harris Street Park, things we're not aware of, I mean, there may be things we can just do along the way that are little cost to us and great benefit to the.
Well, I think that ought to be a major effort, not just, I hear you,
Yeah.
but I think that's
But
the
it may
way
not,
to do it.
what I'm saying is it may not even require a major effort, it may
Right.
just be something.
No, I'm saying
there
that we
can
try to
get
make it,
there.
make it a positive out of it, because nobody wants a 30-inch sewer line run through their backyard or in their neighborhood, just to be honest with you, but we understand there's a whole bunch of stuff underground that we
Right.
don't think about till it doesn't work,
Right.
so.
And bear with us, we've all taxed ourselves as we have a new council seated to ask, why is this good for Fort Mill?
Right.
For everybody that comes before us, not just you,
Right.
but everybody. Why is this good for Fort Mill?
Well, we can make improvements. It does help your neighbors to the north. As you see growth, other places see growth, it spills over. I don't think it's gonna stop.
That doesn't directly
Well,
benefit Fort Mill.
It
It
doesn't
can.
directly benefit, but it can. It does, and I will say this from the Clear Springs perspective. When we met with Clear Springs, they understood the impact, that if the day comes when some of their property there or in Kingsley, when a major manufacturer wants to move their world headquarters to Kingsley, and they call me up and I say, we don't have any capacity for sewer, then it presents a problem. So this is, it's not a problem yet, but eventually it will be. So we're trying to stay ahead of the curve and get this done the best way that we can. I realize it's not easy. It's not an easy call for you as an elected person and taking it for your town. But there are long-term consequences if we don't address these things and we don't address them in a proactive way.
Well, Springs is one of our constituents as well. Many of us grew up here. So we're in a little bit of a different boat in that we have to answer to all our constituents,
Right.
not one, but all.
Right.
So we'll take this information and we'll look forward to hearing further from you.
One more question on the phase 3 of it, or section 3, looks like it significantly goes through the Elizabeth property. I'm assuming Lennar is aware of this, right? And they're working
Yes.
around this and you're working around their construction schedule?
That's true.
Okay, awesome,
Yeah, and that's,
And that was where we came up settling
nice.
to be bringing in dollars.
and that's why the alignment is not
Maybe
straight
we're
there.
serious now.
We're having to, between their developments and Duke Energy and some of our environmental studies, we're having to do some less than preferred alignment options through there, but we're having to juggle all of that to make it work. And then as you can see, it goes over to Bank Street, and then along Bank Street as it heads south to the river, and then we cross under the river over to,
You say you're going under the river?
yes.
Won't be the first time.
I understand that.
No, we already got one line under there, so it'll be second.
Just don't spring a leak.
Anywhere.
Not the first time that's been in that
Listen,
river.
in what I do, the favorite saying is keep it in the pipe. You always keep it in the pipe.
All right, we thank you enormously for your time and your information and your patience with us this evening.
Well, it was glad to be here.
Thank you so much. All right.
Y'all have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Oh, and I did watch the last meeting, just to kind of get a feel, and I wore this tie because I definitely heard somebody say roll tide. There you go. I figured I would have one-
And now we know why you deal with Pookie.
Have a good evening.
You hear me? Now we know why
All
he deals
right.
with Pookie.
We will now move to presentation number 2, plans for the 2022 Main Street Jam. Steve Tolson. Welcome, Steve.
I wish I could come up here and just tell y'all what I was doing, and you just had to sit there and
Uh,
say, oh, yeah, sure.
Don't mistake any of that prior
No, no,
conversation,
no, no,
okay?
no. We've been working on this for 6 years, but I'm just telling you
Yeah,
that
and
right
we
now.
just
Yeah.
decided to talk to you.
Thank you for the notice.
Yeah.
Hey, well, great to see you. I'm gonna start coming to these all the time. Working with Chicana on dates, so we finally came up with some dates that we're able to put events together and then also fit in the schedule with the town, since we do need town staff for the events. Just a quick presentation, some 2021 results. We had 4 events in 2021. We had about 40 vendors per event. The majority of the vendors either identify as being from Fort Mill or in York County, which is a big focus that we have. We partner with a local charity for each event and donate 10% of all gross proceeds from the event to the charity. Approximately, so that led to almost $8,000 for charities in 2021. The bulk of that this year was actually for the Fort Mill History Museum, which was great. I know they're trying to pay off their mortgage, so we love working with them. Approximately 2,500 attendees. It's a rough estimate, but it's based on the amount of sales that we have at Hobos and More Artists, and then the amount of alcohol that we sell on the street. That's the easiest way for us to account for the number of people there. And then I just throw in there, like, the Fort Mill PD has always said that they love working the events. They're easygoing. They like to, it gives them an opportunity to get out and, like, actually work with the townspeople and show that, like, police aren't scary. Like, you can just hang out and talk to a police officer. They're humans just like everyone else. They're here to make your life better, not to punish you. I guess next slide. So the proposed 2022 events, we want to try to have an event for spring, to kind of launch spring on April 16th, Peach Jam on the 17th of July, Oktoberfest, which thank you for working that one in. I know that's in between some town events, but that's our biggest event. It's Oktoberfest, like people just get so excited to do that, and so it works really well for us on the 17th. And then we're going to try to have more of like a Christmas market, like less, I guess, beer and family focus necessarily, and more just like an open market in December this year, and see how that works, kind of in the morning instead of the evening. So you can go to the next slide. All the events have different start times. It's another thing we're going to try this year. The proposal is to close Main Street 3 hours before the event starts. That was based on some feedback last year from the fire department, where they wanted to get the barricades filled before anyone came into the event. And so that gives them an hour to fill the barricades. And then we'll have vendors and stage and everything start getting set up after the first hour. So that'll give the Fort Mill Fire Department an opportunity to get everything set up, get out of the way, and then we'll get the vendors in. So the first event, we want to operate from 12 to 6. Our breakdown seems, from working with the town and Public Works in the past, to be sufficient in terms of getting all the vendors out, everything broken down off the street and open back up. For the next event, we want to operate just an evening event on the 17th in July, or 16th in July. We're trying again to do just an evening event. Some of the vendors have requested shorter timelines for the events because we've always had them operating like 6 to 7 hours. And in the summer, it's so hot. Hoping that if we move it up a little bit later in the evening, it'll be hopefully mild. You never know, it could be 95. But hopefully not. So that event, we'd like to operate from 5 to 9. The following event, Oktoberfest, I proposed this one as 12 to 9 just so that we can hopefully get it approved. We'll probably move it either to the evening or the afternoon. So like more of a 12 to 6 or like a 3 to 9 type event, because 9 hours is probably too long. But I wanted to propose it as that timeline so that we have some flexibility in moving it once we get closer to the date. But next event, the Christmas market, just set up early, operate from like 10 to 3, try to make it very Christmas focused and themed. Next slide. This is just a proposed event map that we've used in the past. This was an event map from the Back to School Jam last year. I think we finally confirmed with FMPD and the fire department like a good route to get everyone in and out. So enter through Confederate Street, go, I always say north, it's kind of not true north, but up Main Street, and then exit beyond Kimbrell's with the food trucks at the top end of the street, and then vendors lining the street and the stage at the bottom of the street. One thing that I wanted to talk about is the event space that I have in red there. We've used that space, the parking lot adjacent to the police station right here, for like our family area. So we set up games, face painting, pumpkin painting, all sorts of stuff that kind of allows it to be a little bit away from the event, but also close enough that you still have like a feel that you can separate but still be a part of the event at the same time. I would like to be able to use that space still for these events if possible, although I know that some municipal lots are not necessarily allowed for private events.
We did, and Steve, I'll address that one. We allowed behind you guys, I think you did a heart.
Yeah, we had the Hardy Hops event.
Yeah, that was awesome. It was handled excellently. There was nothing wrong with the event itself.
Right.
But we did get some feedback that it wasn't fair to other merchants and other people trying to get through. And it caused a firestorm of questions and requests about, well, can I get this parking lot and can I get that parking lot? And it becomes almost unenforceable, almost to the point that it's very difficult to say, yes, we can't say yes to one group and no to another. So it puts us in a precarious position. So we've actually talked about it as a council, and we're proposing an ordinance to say, you know, we're not going to use parking lots. Let us confer where we are from that. But I wanted you to understand the background on
Well, I think that the one thing I would say in terms of these events and where they kind of separate themselves is, I think it's an easier sell. Like, I understand the lot behind us for just like a Saturday night, like it disrupts someone else, but also they're not taking the initiative to do it. They're all seeing that it was done, it was a huge success, and now they're saying, well, why can't I do it too? Well, they could have done it, they didn't. But for these events in particular, I think it's a real easy sell because you can put the barricades before you get to that lot. And then it's not even that you've given permission to use the lot, it's that the police themselves prefer to have the barricade on the, whatever side of the lot that is, the east side of the lot there, to allow more, like, better crowd control on the street or something. I think there's a way with these events to make it work. It's not the same. And I understand like where you're coming from with some of the parking lot closures and people wanting to do this, that, and the other.
Yeah, it's not just downtown.
It's
all kinds of places.
But I mean, I'd be happy to put together a presentation on why I feel like it's important for this lot to be used for these events, and come back to another meeting or try to work something out, because we use that event for a family-friendly space. Mm-hmm. It's like, these are community events, and I will get to a slide at the end of this, but you know, one of the things that maybe we need to do is talk about partnering on these events together and having like, not necessarily a town hosted event, but like a town sponsored event in some way. So then we're partners on the event, and in that regard, once we're partners on this event, now you have the ability to offer up these parking spaces.
And I think in fairness to the new folks that we have on council, You're here tonight not to represent yourself as a business person, but rather the merchants, the Downtown Merchants Association.
Well, and
Yes.
I will be completely
Yes, no.
clear with that. We have not met at all since COVID.
I wondered about that.
And I'm hoping to. I wanted to get the dates confirmed first and get that started again, because the lack of communication between the group has made it at times more challenging to host these events.
I'm sure.
So I would say I'm not just here for more artists, because these events, it's hobos and more artists that are primarily funding them and hosting them. But they're community events. Like, there's a huge drive from the community for stuff like this. Like, they want it, they need it.
Well,
Um,
our
and
calendar,
even more so now.
I'm sure you've seen, our calendar with the opening of the amphitheater, our calendar is expanding rapidly.
Right.
So what we don't want to do, and those are for everyone as well. So what we need to do when you say partner, we really have to take a look at what we're doing on our calendar to use the amphitheater and to grow the downtown for your sake, for everyone's sake, and see how that fits with the staff that we do have. I know that we've had opportunities where we were loosely planning and excited about everything, and we weren't giving our employees any time off at all. They work,
Right.
8-hour day and then all weekend, and then they keep going because it was fun,
Yeah.
But we do need to keep them. Employment is very difficult, and we've got the best employees in the world here. We love them deeply, so we're going to protect them, and we want the business to continue. I can't go another moment without telling you how much I like the lights in the front windows. It looks so good.
Well,
So-
I'll tell Kara that when I go back.
It looks really good.
That's all her. That's
I
her
love
touch.
it. Love it, love it. But let us do some consideration on, the requests. But I do
Sure.
think for new council members, it's important for them to understand, you've done a wonderful job with the events today. I've said that every time you've come before us. You've been responsible. They've been handled well. We just have to work out what works for us and our staff, because we don't want to not have events. We want to have them. We just have to make sure it's right.
Well, and that would be, like, again, part of my proposal. I know not for this year, but for next year, possibly trying to sync up before the whole planning takes place. And because I know one of the things that's going to happen with the amphitheater is that downtown merchants, and I'm not going to be the one who's going to lead this charge, but they're going to be upset that traffic's going to be driven away from downtown.
I don't see that.
I know it's going to happen. I just know it. They get mad about it no matter what. Like, it's like the Strawberry Festival all over. They all complain that traffic's driven away from downtown. You bring people here and then it goes to Elijah Park. But I don't think that, I don't agree with that
I don't agree
personally.
with that.
We get so much foot traffic those days. I don't care if they walk through, just see the bar and don't even spend money on anything. They've seen it and now it's giving them an opportunity to come back. So you'll never hear that from me. But I think there's going to be an opportunity to work together to have amphitheater-focused events and then downtown-focused events. And I believe that maybe they can work together, kind of like the Christmas Village this year. Like, maybe that goes all the way to Elijah Park at some point. That was a fantastic event. Like, I loved it.
One of the better ones, wasn't it?
It was amazing. The town loved it. Everyone I talked to loved it. Like, could not have been any better.
It's getting better every year, and I applaud the effort that you've put forth to continue to grow your business on Main Street and the folks that enjoy Main Street. My hat's off to staff, for us coming up with bigger schedules, better schedules. It is getting better, but you're right. We do have to work together. I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
But, I'm not closing a door, but I'm
Sure.
not saying it would look exactly like what I might think you're thinking. I can't read, so I'm not. sure.
I'm thinking just more like focusing. Like, this year, it was a back and forth on dates and times, and there was no. In Jacana's, it was great communication. So I don't want to say it was poor communication, but it was like I had no idea what the town event schedule was. They had no idea what my schedule was. If we're just putting those two things together
Yeah,
and
'cause you're
then
not the
working
only
towards the
one.
same goal, because
We've got
our
other-
events are all just community-focused events too.
We have others that are asking about events as well.
Yeah.
And I think, we have to find the right path. that's a good problem to have. It's not a bad problem to have. So, let us meet discuss this a little bit further, and let's see what we can do. But I do, again, appreciate the hard work. You've managed your business and your folks very nicely. A good asset to downtown.
Thank you.
And I like the lights.
Well, I'll tell Kara about that.
Now, I will text you with, I hope that you will reinstitute a downtown association.
Absolutely.
Because as we move forward, we're going to have to discuss traffic on Main. Right now, the Department of Transportation has indicated openly that it's a dangerous situation. With COVID, we had to have people with pickup. We tried to work to help with that. Uber drivers, we're working on that. But it is not the easiest street to navigate if you're a lady trying to get a kid in a car seat out, or you're parked the wrong way and somebody else is trying to pass. I mean, it's pretty precarious at times. So we are looking forward to some nice changes that will be good for downtown. We have some sign changes. We want to change out the lamp posts. We want to continue to support the businesses on Main Street and the investors on Main Street. But the traffic is an issue. Crosswalks are an issue.
Oh, yeah.
People just...
it's...
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to take, but it's... I hear people all the time that just say it's going to take someone getting hit and killed for, something big to change, but... That's just, I hear everything on Main Street, so.
I'm sure.
Do you know how many U-turns I've seen?
It's ridiculous. They're Uber drivers. They are. I've watched. I walk on the treadmill at the gym and I watch. It's like, run the bag out and they're doing the U's on me.
I was walking and it wasn't on Main, but right here, and I was on my phone, and there was people approaching me in the sidewalk right here, coming towards Bayless's train station. And I was about to step in the road, and Jason Thompson screamed out from across the
And
street.
said, dummy, quit looking at your phone.
Right. And I would have walked right in front of the car. I mean, just my own stupidity. Dummy. That's right.
Well, some of it's just.
But I mean, if it would have been for him, I would have gotten nailed right here just on Confederate.
There was our event right there.
I know.
Just
We don't want that.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Another election.
Do it to disqualify.
We'll
And he
stage something
admitted to
if
it
you
and brought
want.
it up on his own.
It'd have been a headline if I'd have got.
Well, if you want to shut down Main Street altogether, I'm good with that, too.
We may come to you.
Okay.
Question, you said the funding it takes when you put these on, just understanding a little bit of what you're paying for. I know typically you're paying for the town staff to participate and help you with whatever is going on, so the police or public works, correct?
Yep.
What
Police,
else?
Public Works.
Yeah, what else expenses do you have by hosting this?
Police, Public Works, stage, music, sanitation, I guess, like toilets, or
Okay.
porta johns.
Porta
Yeah.
potties.
Gotcha.
And then anything we end up kind of giving or painting or whatever with the family-friendly areas.
Okay.
But then we generate revenue through some sponsorships, which will hopefully, if I can get dates approved, I'll get a sponsorship package out this year. But usually insurance companies, lawyers, whatever. Vendor fees for vendors, and then alcohol sales. Like the beer and wine is essentially what funds the event.
Okay. And bringing that up, I noticed that one of the 4 weekends is Easter weekend. I'm going to struggle, I will be very open and honest, approving a event that weekend for our staff to have to work overtime on Easter weekend, plus an
Agreed.
alcohol event on that weekend.
Okay.
I will also struggle with the one associated with Christmas too, just like I did this past year. So just kind of telling you where I stand with it.
Well, the goal of the Christmas one,
but-
again, is less alcohol, I would not want to have a beer trailer at that event. I would want to have Main Street and have like a Christmas market. So and I can explain that in a little more detail, but we would avoid having a full stage. We would try to just have a DJ playing like Christmas music. So we would cut our costs for the event down significantly, because stage is like $1,500. And then when you have live music, that's another $1,500 usually. So we can cut out like $3,000 right there, and then we can cut the alcohol sales out, do vendor fees, create a Christmas village. We would still want for open container from in and out of the businesses. We would serve in plastic cups, but we would try to not have alcohol sales on the street.
Gotcha. Jacana, are we doing a vendor market at Christmas with our town events this year, like we did last year?
Yes, we are planning to do that.
So it'd be 2 weekends in a row, okay. And kind of tagging off what Gwen said, how many of the Main Street merchants, thank you, are participating in these? Like when you're opening up on the weekends, that kind of thing? Because we don't have many restaurants, we've got a few.
So, I mean, I guess, how do you define participation? Like John at Local Dish really wants nothing to do with them, but doesn't care that they exist either, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But like Olives, they usually throw tables out front and serve for the events. Town Tavern always throws a tent and tables out and serves. Puckerbutt just asks if their space is open and they leave their door open and let people come in, so they don't actually set a tent up, but participate in the sense that they stay open.
The veterinarian, is he giving up his parking lot to be able to have these
We
events?
have
on the
never
weekend?
asked him to give up his parking lot for the event. Although
Okay, 'cause I worry
it's a
about
good idea
site.
to talk to him. I've talked about approaching him because we have a really good relationship with him.
Yeah.
But no, we don't ask him, we don't use his parking lot for anything other than if people want to park there for the event. And as far as I understand, they're not open on Saturdays, so I don't believe it impacts his hours.
Okay, all right, thank you, just general questions. And then Davey, as we get to this tight of a setup for these type of events, hearing that we're going to try to get the fire department in there an hour before to set the barricades, what happens if they get a fire call where both stations are gone? How do we catch up to such a tight time frame of getting the barricades and the waters in them and so forth?
Chief Wilkerson, my understanding, the way he does that, he stages a truck away from the event, so he dedicates one truck to the event and another truck to cover during the time that they're setting up.
Okay.
So we have coverage at all time. It's just, it does help, and town staff has worked with Steve on the best time to set up, the best way to set up.
Okay.
We've learned from
Yeah, I definitely feel
past
like we've learned
experiences.
on setup
yeah.
and everything. It all has gotten much better. I just want to be sure that, it doesn't take much to have both stations go to a call.
That's absolutely right.
So, okay. Train
Two
drill.
follow-up questions, I think you addressed most of them. Who is we? I'm looking at your future events. Who is we? And,
Future events.
well, you've got, we would like to partner with the town, so who is we? And what do you mean by partner?
Okay, yeah, I'm glad I added this at the end because just the back and forth with figuring out how to come up with dates it was really easy at one point, and now it's gotten more difficult because the town's hosting so many of their own events, which is a good thing. Don't have any issue with that at all. I love it. So in terms of I would say when I wrote this, I was thinking the event. And at this moment, the event is hosted by More Artists and Hobos.
Yeah, I think to follow up, we is us, which is the rest of the merchants. So, because as the town and the merchants are doing stuff, so that we can't be you and
100%
Hobo.
agree.
So I think she'd already asked about the merchants association, so I think that would help as being part of we. So
Yeah, so my goal was, honestly, COVID it brought some people together, it divided some people, and it made things like that really difficult, as y'all probably know with council meetings even. My goal was to try to get some dates on the books and then start building the merchant group together based on the fact that we've got these events planned, and now once these events have been approved by the town, now we can say, how do we want to work together with these events? Through COVID, there has been no real together. Like, we have a really good relationship with some merchants, and I wouldn't say a bad relationship, but it's almost no relationship with others. But I think we can change that, and that's my goal, because it's not going to work long term if it's just two of us. We need at least the majority of us to be involved.
And then clarify what you mean by partner?
So I don't really know, to be completely honest, my goal would be to have some sort of partnership, and I thought of this primarily due to the parking lot issue. So we make use of that parking lot for a family-friendly area that is all community-based and focused, right? It does little to, I mean, it certainly helps the overall event, but it does little to like directly impact Hobos or Amor Artist Brewing. It impacts the town. And so I was thinking, if we're definitely not going to be able to use that as a like private independent event, but you can use it for town sponsored events, that somehow we partner on these events so that like maybe it takes the ease or takes the burden of financing and planning and hosting events from the town. So say it's 4 to 6 events a year. We handle all the major legwork in terms of planning the event. But then the partnership is involved that like maybe the police and the public works are paid for, or we have access to use that parking lot, or something as simple as just being able to sync up dates so that we're not going back to back to back to back weekends with town, private. So I think the term partner is kind of vague because I don't know what a partnership between us and the town looks like. But I wanted to start the conversation so that we could possibly get there before the new budget gets in for next year, if there is an opportunity to do it.
I think you're right, and kind of to the mayor's earlier on point, we're doing so much as a town, we need to be partnering more. I mean, so what does an event by the town look like that's different from an event that Downtown Merchants would be sponsoring? How does that differ in your vision?
Well, I don't know. In some ways, it's the reach, right? Like you guys have a totally different reach than what we have. The town, through social media engagement, news, radio, reaches kind of the whole populace. We just reach really the people that are somehow connected to us directly. And when I say us, that's Hobos and Amor Artists, really. So I think to collaborate, it gives us a bigger reach. But then it also takes some of the burden of planning the events off of y'all. So I think at the end result could be that you have similar events, but you're partnered on some of them so that the town isn't physically having to host an event every single weekend, where they're responsible for planning, sourcing things, setup, breakdown, everything. We'll be able to take some of that off your shoulders.
Perfect. And I think, to your point, the Oktoberfest is a great example of a different reach, a different demographics probably that comes to that, for sure.
Well, and that's a little
Their
bit different
leader
event. And maybe
hostings,
it's not 4 or 6, maybe it's 2, but I think that there are some opportunities there to, again, partner.
Yeah.
And I think it benefits everyone because we would have the ability, we would have the reach of the town and us together. And we kind of already do it on like the Strawberry Jam, the Main Street event that we do.
Partner pretty much on everything, but what I think you're speaking to is a more cooperative, as you say, dates and how do we share
Correct.
Events that benefit the entire town.
Yeah,
So-
and partner may not be the right word. We're always technically partnered on things.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like to think we are.
I mean, we basically have to. Right?
I like to
I
think
know,
we
I'm
are.
eating at Hobos, and I know he's stopping at your place, so.
So,
I just think it would make planning everything easier.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other people out there trying to plan events.
There
I'm
are.
not the only one.
yeah.
But we've been doing it for years now, and
Successful.
they work. They're successful, and people love them. They're a headache for me, but I love them too.
And we like strawberry beer, so.
It's coming
Have you
soon.
found the
Thank you.
crowds have been, and the people that have come, have you had like any real disruptions or anything like that? Everybody's staying pretty?
Yeah, as far as I've seen, again, from the feedback from Fort Mill Police Department, everything's been really tame. And, we make an effort. We serve in plastic or aluminum cans all day long. We don't let glass out on the streets. We make an effort to get the roll carts moved away and set up in as easy as possible. It's been pretty easy going. I mean, Fort Mill's a good town to host these events, honestly. I think you, even just going to Rock Hill events, there's more, bigger
It's not the
issues at
same.
times.
It's
so,
entirely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, entirely different.
Thank you for your dedication.
Yeah.
Oh,
Honestly,
thanks.
we really
Thank y'all for having
appreciate
me
it.
here.
and-
Look
yeah.
forward to seeing what the new facility is going to bring as
Yeah.
well.
It's gonna be fun. That's a challenge too.
Yeah.
All right. We thank you so much, Steve.
Absolutely.
We'll get back with you and see what we can do to further some of the questions and requests.
Okay,
Okay.
that sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. All right. There are no old business items on our agenda this evening. We will move directly to new business item number 1, first reading, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2021-28 so as to update the fee schedule for parks and recreation. Brown Simpson. Brown?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. What we're asking tonight, the purpose of this ordinance is amend the fee schedule for Parks and Recreation for the remainder of the fiscal year through September 30th, 2022. And just come with some of the major updates. We're changing the athletic, we're asking you to change the athletic field rentals to allow for hourly rentals as opposed to only all-day rentals, which right now are $250 for all day. We're also adding winter tennis lessons and also summer tennis lessons. That's a typo on the tennis camp on your readout. And those summer tennis lessons would be nightly tennis lessons because we do have our summer tennis camps that were already on the books. And then also adding in other fees that were omitted from the September 2021 version of our fee schedule. So I'll be glad to entertain any questions that you might have with that, with your consideration.
As we are videotape, Brown, I know that council has had an opportunity to review the information prior to the meeting. Will this be an increase in any fees or simply just a shift from a full day rental to an hourly rental?
Yes, ma'am. It would shift from, currently, we have it on the books for $250 for, let's say, for W Bridge Park Field number 1 and any of our athletic fields. So that would go from, we have some groups that would like to rent it. They're just not interested in renting it all day. They're more interested in renting it on an hourly basis.
Like for a
for a
birthday
couple
party?
hours would be $100, $50 an hour.
Yeah, team practice, birthday party, is that kind of what the need seems
Yes,
to
ma'am.
be?
It is. And then also
Express.
too, one of the shelters that we left off accidentally was W Bridge Park, our 2 shelters there. We did not put that on the fee schedule when y'all approved the budget in September 2021.
And when someone, with this, if we were to approve this, how do you denote, let's just say, it used to be down at the little park, you could rent the round area and have a birthday party there. I've done it. How do we have something we post on it, say this is rented from this
Yes,
time to
ma'am.
this time? Do we have a staff member? Do they make sure it's cleaned up before the next event?
Yes, ma'am, we do. We have all that covered on the weekends. We have a lot of our rentals, shelter rentals on the weekend. So we do have staff that work on the weekends that do post when we do have rentals for shelters and things like that. And then they go back and make sure that it's clean. If we have one that follows the
I just
next
think
one.
it's important for people watching this at a later date that they get that kind of information.
Yes, ma'am.
Questions for Brown?
So is there, I noticed on our website through the portal, when you're trying to reserve, we're looking 8 to 8 is our rental window, 8 in the morning, so 12 hours currently,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Are we offering an all-day rental rate as well as hourly? Are we keeping it both? So when we have these tournaments come in and they're renting, they want it all day, are they still gonna have that $250 option?
They will.
Or-
If we have a tournament that comes in that wants to rent, let's say, over 5 hours, then they have to pay the full $250 for the whole day.
Okay.
So that's still the max.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir,
Okay.
that's the max.
All right, just want to be sure we weren't going all the way the other way to only hourly. Okay.
I definitely like the flexibility though of having it per hour to get more, more use out of the fields.
Yes,
So,
sir.
it's definitely a
We've
good
had
idea.
that request, we just have not been able to do it because we didn't have those fees set forth.
Got it.
Now, I know one of the concerns that we've had is having enough fields for our Parks and Rec programs that we're doing. How are we doing like on the weekends with rentals and making sure you have the time you need to get all of the practices in,
games.
brain makeups, schedule's easy, is when that rain comes through that changes your
Yeah,
world.
currently, right now, we just work with some travel teams on travel tournaments, directors on the weekend at W Bridge Park only. And so we're able to schedule all of our games during the week, our practices during the week. We still use the complex and other Harris Street Park for our practices on the weekends also too. And we utilize some of that, like for example, T-ball is played on Saturdays in the spring and in the fall over at, usually over at the complex or sometimes down at Harris Street Park too. So we work around that. We haven't had an issue with that, so we've been able to put that on the books early, and we've been able to work through all those.
So I guess a different way of.
We put our recreation teams first.
And that's a different way of me questioning that. If I want to rent it on May 14th, that morning for an hour for a kickball tournament for staff versus council, and all of a sudden you have to have a rain makeup at 10 o'clock that morning, and I've got it scheduled already, are we going to automatically just block out the mornings until noon, until kind of a last minute opening?
We
wouldn't double book,
Yeah.
but I see a potential conflict when you go per hour to where you are trying to make up some games with Parks and Rec, and I've already got an event scheduled there, and I'm going to be the blocker of you being able to get the Parks and Rec stuff as the priority.
Well,
Does that
right
make
now,
sense?
what we've been doing currently is we have that, we've been doing this for years with the schedule and everything, so we have those already blocked out, but we will make sure, like I said, that anything from a standpoint of our recreation stuff comes first. We try to make that up first. And we have some times that are built in during the week too. For an example, like on a Wednesday and a Friday, that we can make up our rec games if we get rain or things like that. We
That's
already
a great
have those
answer.
built in.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I had a few quick questions. Just one of my questions was on the rental. I think there's 6 line items that mention per hour or fraction thereof. Do you think, break it 15-minute increments, 30-minute increments? I didn't know
No.
how that would really,
I can answer that, bro.
break
I wouldn't
down.
approve of that. I would say hour
The way,
would be the minimum.
Yeah, we do the hour.
Okay.
on the
yeah,
hour.
we put that as a caveat just because the way our financials or our Parks and Recreation system works, if you did go from like 2 to 5:30, it's not a full hour, so it would charge $25 for that 30 minutes as opposed to $50. But staff can restrict it to only hours.
Yeah, I
But
think when you get into that hour, you pay for the hour, so. That would
Yeah,
be
I
my
was gonna say,
thoughts.
to Lisa's point, that creates a scheduling nightmare for half hours. I would only suggest that we stick with the hour and that everyone else work their schedule to fit what our rental opportunities are. How's that?
And I may have missed it, but listing under Walter Elijah, or what are you renting at that point? Is it like the amphitheater, or is it, a certain X by Y out in the grass, or what is that?
We don't rent the amphitheater.
That's what I was thinking, just
Yes,
looking on here.
We have some different events that we've had over there for years.
Right.
I'll give you an example. We work with a certain church group here in Fort Mill with the Easter Egg Classic that they have. It's called an extravaganza. So we kind of rent them a big open green space there. We've worked with the Humane Society of York County for a number of years with their Doggone Good Time Festival that they have in September or October of every year. So it's more of a green space. We're not renting out the amphitheater.
Right, that's what I
at
was
all.
just looking for clarification. I
Yes,
didn't
sir.
think so, but, and then the only other question I had was from the sports fees and things like that, you figure, I'm sure you've crunched the numbers and things, but you feel like things are really paying for themselves at that point? I know it's not full every hour of every day, and you can't really forecast to that, but,
With youth sports fees, you try to set them to help cover some cost.
balance, right?
We rely a lot on volunteers. We rely all on volunteers for our coaches and everything.
Right.
And so with the youth sports fees, we look at those every year. We have not raised those in a long time. We try to keep it as close as we can to some other municipalities and what they charge also too. And I will say this, and I've been in this a long time. You do youth sports because it's the right thing to do in the community. And it's a big part of what a community is all about from a recreation standpoint. So hope that answers your
No,
question.
definitely. I mean, you and your staff do an amazing job. I think there's a lot of things going around the town that a lot of people don't realize. So,
Thank you.
Yeah. Brown, I have
Great
one
job.
question. First of all, I'll say God bless you and your staff, because y'all do an amazing job. We've got probably half the number of parks and walks we need, and for y'all to be able to whittle people in and out and keep everybody on schedule is great. On additional fees, you've got pickleball,
Yes, sir.
$2 per player per day, but I don't see pickleball listed anywhere else. So is that?
We have it currently, it's down at the
Banks.
Fort Mill Community Center Old Bank Street Gym. We have a group that plays there every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Usually we average somewhere between 15 and 20 seniors that come. Majority of them are seniors.
Why are you looking at me when you say seniors?
Get on a team, that's why he's asking.
No, that's all good. But I just didn't see a list. I see other sports listed, and I didn't see that, and you've got an additional seat, and I just didn't know if that needed to be clarified.
No, we're doing an addition at the complex at the Y, where we're gonna be adding some tennis courts and taking advantage of two of the worst in condition. We're gonna do some repair and make pickleball out there.
Gotcha.
It's the fastest growing sport in the country.
Oh, yeah,
It is.
Yep, I remember my family's broke their arm doing it.
Oh, dear.
But I just didn't see it listed anywhere else, and that's, you get an extra charge, but you don't have a primary charge, okay.
And we'd welcome anybody, any of you guys that want to come and play, please come down.
Grant, is there a way that we could do an annual pass or something, so we're not doing literally $2 every time somebody wants to play?
That's something that we can look at and
As we
study.
look at these
and get back with you on that. That's a great idea.
It
And
is.
as I'm on the portal where you can do reservations and so forth, I'm not seeing the availability to be able to get anything right now, other than it looks like the gazebos or shelters. How
Yeah.
is that just a glitch, or we have not opened being able to rent a park or ball fields or basketball courts yet?
We held off on that because we're working through some issues on
Because
the
of
T
this
park.
stuff? Okay.
It goes back to a lot of it. Parks and Recreation comes number one. So if we open it up to the masses to go and reserve Calhoun Park soccer field, and Brown needs it for a makeup game, it creates more opportunities for conflicts. So for those, the way it's set up on our website is you call in and you can speak to a representative, and they can know, a little more about what our needs are, and they can tell you if it's available or not.
Why can't we go ahead and just schedule that ourselves in the system, and then that eliminates the need for a call?
Again, I think it was just because, and Brown, correct me if I'm wrong, having an opportunity for staff to, speak to each other and know, hey, we need this for this, that, and the other. We need it for a setup for a tournament or what have you, and as opposed to just automatically allowing it online.
I'm not suggesting that we automatically allow, but I am suggesting that weekly we discuss the needs of the public, of our Parks and Rec, and that we go ahead and set aside that time on this calendar, and then others can rent accordingly. There's nothing I hate worse than having an electronic system that everybody in the world uses, but then I'm forced to pick up the phone and call and wait for somebody to discuss whether it's available or not. I am your worst customer when it comes to that. So I do think that a little communication inside the house, make that schedule work on this system, and then put out there what's available. And if you need to reserve it for makeup games, to Lisa's point, for rain, you keep some space that's not rentable.
Right.
It's not rented because we hold this for those makeup times. But I really don't understand why we would go electronic and then force people to go pick up the phone. So I am opposed to that.
We can look at that.
We'll look at that.
Other questions? None? All right. At this point, we need a motion. This is a business item with a first reading.
And for clarification, since we do have new council and some old, is this just a one reading item or two? It will be two. Okay.
I don't hear a motion.
I make a motion to approve new business item number 1.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. All right. Brown, thank you.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, can we work
Thank you,
out some
Brad.
of these kinks before the final vote, though?
Yeah, we can ask when they come back.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you, you too. All right, new business item number 2. Consideration to renew sponsorship for Fort Mill Economic Partners. Davey, you're to present.
Yes, Mayor, and this is, Fort Mill Economic Partners approached, the town of Fort Mill. I don't recall if it's 2019 timeframe or early 2020, but it was in the 2020 fiscal budget year, about the town of Fort Mill sponsoring them at a higher level than we were in previous to that. They approached town council about, sponsoring them for $10,000 for that year. Town council did do that, and then they came back again in the 2021 fiscal budget year, and you agreed to that $10,000 again. Staff, during the 2022 fiscal budget, when we were building it, we added that $10,000 for the 2022 fiscal year, just in case they come back to you again and give you an opportunity to vote on that. So the money is in the budget for $10,000 for the Fort Mill Economic Partners as a sponsor, and it's a platinum level sponsor according to their paperwork. But they've approached us again and would like for the town to sponsor them for the 2022 year in that amount of $10,000.
So what are they doing? I mean, we have 3 new council people here. I mean, will they be coming to us for a presentation to show what value they bring?
They've got 2 in the hopper. I will speak to what I know. This past year, they have made a significant step in a different direction. They set up and orchestrated the work with Winthrop, with the marketing groups to look at the proposed expansion of the trails that will run through downtown. Did a fine job with that, quite frankly. We will be getting a presentation, I hope, at our March meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. They've been waiting to do that. I have seen a draft presentation. They did good work. They also are evolving on the Sprint and Stroll to be a participant. That's interesting, as we just heard Steve ask for us to partner. The economic development folks said, let us do a Sprint and Stroll to participate with the town in the Strawberry Festival, and it was very successful. They are going to present to us also was it a 50-year plan?
Yes, ma'am. It's a 50-year.
That just sounds so weird coming out. 50-year
Right.
plan. We'll be getting that as well, which, hold your seat when you see it, because it's 50-year view from design architects that view things somewhat differently. But there are a few nuggets in there that are good for us. I did talk they have hired a new director. She's great. She's going to do good things for them. Their vice chair is Elizabeth, help me, my brain just went. Yes, Bowers, thank you. With the Greenway, and the relationship there through the Economic Development Partners is growing tremendously.
I just wish we could see them quarterly or more than once a year. I know you communicate with them more than anyone, but I think from the 3 new people that are sitting in this chair, for them to vote on something that's $10,000, and the mayor's put up a good pitch for them, and I think it's a little unfair when they haven't been a part or privy to anything. So
easy, just make that as part of the agreement.
Yeah,
Just say they have to report back twice a year.
Yeah.
Something like that.
To your point though, Chris, this is only your second meeting, your third, and your third.
Yeah.
So, business rolls. It's not something we can stop.
But before they were
and
even on
catch up.
council, they would come once a year, and that would be, I would just like a quarterly or every 6 month update
We can
from
ask,
council.
and we should. I agree with
I'm
you.
not meaning to frustrate.
No,
I'm just
no.
saying,
But I'm all for us deciding what we want to spend our money on and what we get for it. That's perfect. I have no problem with that. Larry did sit as a council representative on the Fort Mill Economic Development Group meeting because of the time of day and the work schedules. I think, Chris, you are willing
Yeah.
to
and
sit in
someone,
that?
I was told that someone will contact me to
Yes.
discuss it, so.
Yes.
But yeah, I think.
And those meetings are open to any council member that would like to attend. They're at 8 o'clock on a Friday morning monthly. I would like and have spoken with them several times about the things that I'm not the most versed on what economic development groups do. I think the ones in Charlotte are very different than what our needs are here in Fort Mill. We need a business inventory. We need to know what facilities are available. We need to know what we're peaked out on. Do we have enough daycares? Do we have enough drugstores, to be tongue-in-cheek? You know, I think those are the types of data gathering and analysis that would greatly benefit us as a council, and they're in agreement. They stand ready to do. I think we have to help say, yeah, we're willing to continue the sponsorship. Here are the things we want. You know, we've done it blindly to a degree. I think this gives us an opportunity to sharpen that pen and say, this is what we'd like. They're amenable. They want to do it, and these are representatives of the largest businesses in our area. Comporium is one of them. Domtar's one of them. LPL's one of them. Amerisource Bergen is one of them, and as well as many other smaller businesses. So I think it behooves us, if we want to fund it, so I'm not making a pitch for them, I'm simply trying to provide the answer to the question, what do they do? I was trying to help with that.
Right.
So I'm not making a pitch as much as I'm saying they are beginning to get their feet on the ground, providing things that I think will be beneficial as we go forward. I will tell you, on a different side of things, they got wildly invested in the second day service and adopted Dobie's Bridge Road. And they do it on a regular basis. They get their vests, they go pick it up, they do that. So I think those are things that would be great, to Chris Moody's point, for them to come quarterly and say, here's what we've done in the last quarter. And that would help us feel better about our investment and our direction.
Yeah, I think seeing, hearing what you said, that's definitely impactful, and looking at their website and thing. But to me, from a business perspective, if I'm going to spend $10,000 on something, I would expect someone to kind of be here and represent themselves, and not just rely on just kind of what we know amongst ourselves. So that's the reason I don't doubt it's a good thing, but I would like to see a proposal and what they can do, how they can engage with us.
It kind of comes back to, they wait for us to ask and we wait for them to offer. I think if we set it up to say, first Monday of the quarter, we'd like to hear from you in person.
I definitely think a quarterly presentation, even just 5 or 10 minutes, just, hey, this is what's going on, this is what we're working on, would definitely make that 10,000 go a lot farther. I would see a return on investment.
Yeah.
I would have liked to seen somebody here to initially, if we're looking at, again, $10,000.
We would have had to have let them know it was going to be on the agenda.
I guess that would have been my thing, to let them know so they could be here before we guarantee them $10,000, just without a pitch or hey, this is what we can do with you.
So is that a motion to delay this until we have an opportunity to hear from them?
That would be for me, yes.
Make that motion.
Okay.
Mayor, this is already in the budget.
I know that.
Even though it's in the budget, doesn't mean it have to be spent, so.
It does not, but.
Right.
I
would make
I'm
a
aware.
motion.
But thank you, that's a good point.
Well,
I second that motion.
If we
You
have
got a
more
motion and a
discussion,
second.
I'm sorry, if we have any more discussions.
Let's make it a motion that we understand what you're making a motion on.
I would make a motion that we defer this decision until the next meeting, where we can be met with a presentation that would describe more the benefits to the town and our involvement with this group.
Okay?
I second.
Okay, a motion has been made to defer this item to the next meeting and to ensure that someone from the Fort Mill Economic Development Partners would come and provide a presentation and answer questions so that we can make a decision on the funding. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you so much.
Davey, I would also like to ask, can we get their meetings put on our calendars so that we'll know when they're happening and don't have to go research?
Yes, you can just add it to the calendar.
To the town calendar, it's on our website?
No,
Is
to
that-
ours,
Oh,
to our
absolutely.
council,
So we'll
so
know,
that we
yeah.
know and
She
can
knows
go
exactly
to
what
it.
needs to, yeah, exactly. Sure. It's a good idea. I will say, to kind of follow up on the mayor's comments, you know, you mentioned there's small and large. We all know the value of networking. And small guy who's a 2 or 3 man business, struggling to be the janitor and the shipping clerk and the president, needs people like Comporium and Domtar and those who actually have resources to help them.
Yes.
I agree with Mr. Hudgens, having them here, like to know exactly what they do. But there again, we're here to support small business in Fort Mill, to just allow us to provide parks and recs too. So we need to keep that in mind while what we're here trying to do. But yeah, if I'm gonna pay money, I want to hear who it is. I get you, but there's a lot more than nickels and dimes when you're trying to start a new business and grow that business that others can provide.
And Davey, for clarification, in our package, it shows a 3-page document, but the last page is blank. That's intentionally correct?
That is, yes, that's a template that I'm working from whenever I send there was a 3rd page that I delete.
Okay, just want to be sure there wasn't a presentation included in it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Productive discussion. There are no information discussion items for this evening. We do have 2 items on executive session agenda. Executive session item number 1, discussion on negotiations incident to a proposed contractual matter relating to the Fort Mill Community Center. Executive session item number 2, receipt of legal advice regarding a potential claim. Please note, council may take action on executive session items listed on the agenda when they come back into public session. We cannot take a vote inside executive session. Those sessions for us are to get guidance or to receive information of a confidential nature that we might need to take action on. So with that, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion, we go into executive session.
Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you so much. We will return. All right, I'll entertain a motion to return to regular session.
Motion to return to regular session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Let the record reflect that no vote was taken and no decisions that needed to be brought before council after the executive session arose. Thank you so much. All right, my friends. That was the last bit of business for this evening, and I know many of you need to go home and cook for their spouses or go out to eat or something, but we will take a very quick trip. Ben, you got anything for the good of the whole?
Oh, I'm just thankful to be here. Missed the very, very first meeting we could have had with COVID, and that really stunk, but glad to have fought back through that, and proud to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. Alan?
Just listening to the Amore presentation earlier, what a good problem it is to have so many events and things that we want to put on. It's the complete opposite of what most towns are going through. They're trying to survive. We're trying to pump the brakes a little bit. So we're blessed to be here.
Agreed. Lisa?
Yeah, and I'd like to kind of feed off that a little bit as we start to look at our committees and what we're planning on doing as a council and how we want to structure that. I'd love more of a community involvement where somebody like Steve feels involved if he wants to help participate. I know we've got some opportunities. I don't know if it's committees, I don't know if it's something else, but looking at just how we can all serve better and include people like that in some of our decisions. It is great to have a full council here. Kind of to Ben's point, I missed last meeting, but after exposure, I didn't want to stand the chance of anybody in this room getting it. So I hate that, and I hate I'm gonna end up missing next week because of a work function I just can't get out of. But enjoy our new council. I'm glad I'm not the only one asking questions. Mayor and I are. Yeah, so welcome, Mr. Wolf. You now have a platform. So you can't blame me all the time.
Well, Christopher, what you got for the good of the whole?
I'll say, I'll go along with the good vibes on Fort Mill. I was downtown Charlotte the other day, and after a nervous drive back from downtown, when I got to the peach stand, I said, praise God. Trees and traffic was moving, and no one was cutting me off. And I told my daughter, I said, see, what a great place we live. And we need to keep that in mind as we are good stewards of what we've been blessed with, so our children and our children's children can enjoy this great place too. Another thought was, saw Pray for Peace, hope the war didn't break out. I can imagine what those people have been through over there already. So the world can be a scary place. So, but thankfully where we are, and we're safe, and yes, we have lots of challenges, but nothing on that magnitude.
Agreed. Amen to that. Mr. Moody?
Couldn't imagine a different kind of Valentine's Day without all y'all. So glad I could spend it with y'all.
You can't have my cookie.
I didn't cook anything. No, but to echo, I think Alan or Ben's point, I mean, I know y'all get tired of me saying this in about every meeting, but when I go back home, all the buildings are nailed, boarded up shut in my hometown. I mean, there's a lot of towns in South Carolina that would love to have the problems we have. They're not problems, they're blessings.
They're good
Right,
problems.
right. So, you know, I'm glad I wound up here. I can tell you that. It's a good place to be.
Absolutely. Ronnie?
So we can look forward to more construction north with the new sewer line, new water lines?
I think we need to have further discussion about that. It's a funny day when Steve Tolson picks up. I wish I could stand up there and tell you what I'm going to do. Yeah, right. Yeah, we need to have more discussion about that, because you've been to RFATs when I have, and taken the beating of, you guys across the river need to plan better. You need to plan better. You know, it's the same puppies that were yelling we need to plan better that need that sewer line to feed their planning up there. Maybe we need to be more like Pineville and just say no. You can't cross through us. Guys, let me tell you something. We're getting used on some cases.
Hey, if the Greenway can tell them they can't come through there, how come we can't tell them they can't come through ours?
Totally agree. So we'll talk more about that. It's not that I want to be adversarial with them, but, you know, there wasn't an air of, we need to do this. There wasn't an explanation other than, well, you got Kingsley and we serve it. You know, I'm tired of that hanging over our heads. I'm really tired of that hanging over our heads, that it's a jealousy thing. You know, that's actually in Fort Mill. So what? So what? Big deal.
They didn't know it was in Fort Mill when they agreed to it.
I know. I think they thought they were building it for themselves. But that's an issue for another day. You know, to Chris Wolf's point, I think we should all go home tonight and hug our families and be grateful we don't have a soldier that was deployed. We don't have a son or a brother or a dad. Or we don't have, like the picture I saw today of the Ukrainian army teaching a 74-year-old woman how to shoot a gun. You know, guys, we live a miracle every day here. And I think we take it for granted quite frequently. It's a different world. It is a
Looks like a
completely
gentleman I
different
heard
world.
today say it was, we won the lottery and was afforded to be born here.
Amen.
Than some other country that you go to that are fighting for every right they can get.
Yeah. And like Chris Moody, I'm really grateful, and I truly love all of you. I truly do, sincerely. You're a special group of people, and I think we're going to do great things. I think collectively, we're going to do good things for Fort Mill, because that's what we want. And I'm uber. Virginia, there ain't enough thank yous in the world for all that you do for us. Davey, Chris, thanks. It's it's an incredible situation where we get to try to make decisions that advance Fort Mill. I got a letter today from Shannon Ford from the Baptist Church with that church has reached out in my 18 years several times and said they're interested in trying to help meet the needs within our community. They have a little questionnaire and would like to meet for 20 minutes. So I'll forward those questions to you so that I can get a collective response. It's kind of hard. It's sort of like the scouts asking, what can they do? You know, we need to try to find a creative way for people to do things that the sororities, the churches, you know, it's really hard to juggle what we're doing day to day and the random, oh, we'd like for you to give us $8.1 million back. And, you know, that really, it's a lot to run a town, a lot. And, oh, the auditors are here. So I think that it's important that we try to take advantage, but please know that this is one of the areas that slowness is understood for me. We can't do things that make it libelous for us, or that, you know, we are a government entity and we have to stay independent of other uses that we can get drawn into.
But to your point earlier with the economic group, the second Saturday service and cleaning and all that is a great way to show that partnership. And we talked about having on our website the volunteers. So there's definitely the start of a framework for it.
I will tell you too that in our opportunities to speak to each other, I am 99% certain TGK has made a decision to go partisan in their council. When it happens there, the pressure will be applied here. And
Been there, didn't like it.
well,
Rather avoid that.
I'd like to take an open stance. I don't want to do that. I want to serve because I'm serving Fort Mill. I'm not serving anything else.
Right.
So I put that before you to think about. I think we're on to something good here. We are willing to work with one another because of the love of Fort Mill, not for the love of power.
What year did they change it?
Huh?
What year did they change it?
I don't know,
Pardon.
but they're going to change it.
It's going to be this year, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be this year.
I'd like to also make sure we don't have another Chris run for a seat while we already have two on. And one on staff.
Thanks a lot.
We're gonna
No
call
problem.
him Chris
You
1,
can
Chris
be
2.
Lisa Chris, and I'll be
I
Glenn
said
Chris.
no more Chris's. No more.
And you can be Ben Chris.
The world
I
can
know.
only-
And Alan
Never said
We
Chris.
thought we could
back here. I
only
was like,
handle
which
one
one?
Moody for a little while.
All right, I will entertain a motion for
Make a
adjournment.
motion for us to adjourn.
Thank you.
Comment.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Love you all.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Good job.